Hey gang, I got an offer for you today from LinkedIn. As business to business marketers, your needs are unique. B2B buying cycles are long and your customers face incredibly complex decisions. Isn't it time you had a marketing platform built specifically for you? LinkedIn ads empower marketers with solutions for you and your customers. LinkedIn ads allow you to build the right relationships, drive results, and reach your customers in a respectful environment. On LinkedIn, you have direct access to build relationships with decision makers. Of the 875 million users on the network, 180 million are senior level executives. 10 million are C-level executives. You will also be able to drive results with targeting and measuring with their tools built specifically for B2B. And best of all, they work. Audiences exposed to brand messages on LinkedIn are 6 times more likely to convert. LinkedIn ads also rank #1 for security, community, and ad experience as part of the Business Insider's Digital Trust Study. Make B2B marketing everything it can be and get a $100 credit. It's a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. It's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
We say is on Gusher, 1+1 doesn't equal 2, 1 equals done. Meaning, if you're not able to get one performance-based equity player, your deal's probably done. But if you get one, the rest follow, the deal gets developed.
Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. So the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I'm Seth. I'm here with Joyce, the founder of Gusher, amongst 24 other companies that he's founded in the past. He is a consummate entrepreneur. So Chris, let's start at the beginning. What's your background? Not many people started 24 companies. Like, where'd you go to school? What's all that good stuff?
Well, my background is I grew up actually in Ohio. So yeah, in the middle of basically it was either factories or it was farm fields, one or the other. And basically, I did anything I could to get the hell out of Ohio. So I went to NYU Biz School. Stern, it became Stern actually when I went there. And became a stockbroker on Wall Street at a very young age. I was the youngest at the time. I became registered when I was, I think, 17. For Oppenheimer, Smith Barney, and a couple others. But that just bored the hell out of me. I didn't like selling other people's stuff. And then just started my own companies, and I started from there, right in New York City.
It's a good place to start. The Silicon Alley, I think they call it, right? Yes, valid.
Well, now it's Silicon Alley. There was no such thing when I was starting companies. Yeah, it was absolutely nothing. I mean, there's no startup ecosystem at all. I mean, now there's a startup ecosystem, but even so, it's not accessible to most people, that startup world, or the ability to get a company.
It's tough, exactly. So now you're the founder and CEO of Gusher. And what really intrigues me about this is that you are attacking the startup ecosystem from a different angle, which I think is fascinating because a lot of people know you start up, you bootstrap, and you fund it yourself. You go get some venture funds. Then there's a third, maybe there's more ways, but at least
that's the fairy tale.
Now there's a third way here through Gusher. Now, what is Gusher?
Well, Gusher is a platform. It's a place. It's a community to launch companies without the need for money, without the need for capital. So what happens is people apply to join a company, to join a startup, in exchange for performance-based equity. So they don't get a damn thing unless the company is able to achieve its goals, able to achieve its objectives, and launch successfully into the marketplace. And we're a performance-based equity player also. We get nothing unless the company is able to succeed. Cool. And so it keeps everybody rowing in the same direction. The number one barrier to entry to starting a company, if you ask people, is money. All right. Not everybody has wealthy friends and family to go ahead and ask funds for. But also when it comes to venture capital, the vast majority of startups are not able to get it. Only about 1 in 700 is actually able to get formal venture capital. So it leaves a big gap, and it's a huge gap.
And there's a lot left on the table then. I mean, I'm sure there's some great ideas out there. People are like, I can't get venture funding. I can't bootstrap this sucker on my own. Wow.
Well, we fundamentally believe that really almost in a way capital makes you weaker. And
Yeah,
let me
please do.
explain what I mean by that. Well, people or anybody will really join your company in exchange for a salary so long as it's
Mhm.
enough and it gives them the basics of
Mhm.
what they do. But who the hell is going to join your company for performance based
Mhm.
equity? Well, the answer we found is really fundamentally it's really fundamental to what we do in our thesis. And let me explain. People don't join companies they don't fundamentally believe in. They're not joining companies as a
Mhm.
transaction. So the example that I always give is a company called Happy Howl. Okay, Happy Howl is a run by a founder called Colin. He's a great guy. He's actually
Oh, really?
local also. He's a Doylestown guy, Warminster
Yeah.
area, something like that. Phenomenal guy. He had a sick dog. He couldn't get the dog to eat. His vets told him go ahead and eat this dog food, that dog food. Dog kept dying. Make a long story short, he created a dog food company to help his dog. But dog food industry is a very capital
It is.
intensive business. I mean, it takes a lot of money to enter that red ocean market, and it's a brutal market. But what he did is he put this team together. All right, was able to get going. But and I'm going to play the extremes here. His first team had managed very large
Mhm.
budgets, 50 million, 100
Lots
million,
of
200
wiggle
million
room.
dollar budgets. The company imploded,
Ooh.
though. The company didn't work, his first team. But his
Mm.
second team, and this is why I'm bringing it up, you'll follow, all had something in common. Now, this isn't a trick
Yeah.
question. It's a
Yeah.
dog food company. His team all had what, Seth? What do you think they all had in
Dogs.
common? Right. They didn't just own dogs, they didn't have kids.
That was
They
their
were
kid. That
dog
was their kid.
parents. They were dog zealots. They ate dog, breathed dog, lived dog. And I don't know if you
You
curse
can.
on this show, but they poop dog. They
Yeah.
crap dog. All right. So they literally speak dog. And so that company took off like a rocket once you had the right
Mhm.
team. They're growing 30% month over month. They have investors, they have
Oh,
manufacturing,
wow.
and everything's going kick. And that's the
It's
way to do
finding
it. You
buy-in.
get people that are right. Yeah. And that's the way that these companies come together. They're not transactional, they buy your big picture
So
idea.
it's almost you could say the employees, the team comes together, invests their equity, their sweat equity, because they believe it's their venture fund is almost it's the sweat equity venture fund. They're saying, "I'm." Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I say to founders is the following: whatever you could do, and I don't kid about this, whatever you could do with $1 million or $2 million sitting in your bank account, sitting in your checking account, you can gusher. And that includes manufacturing, that includes going ahead and distribution,
Mhm.
advertising. You can do
That's wild.
everything. You don't need money in the beginning
You need an
stages.
idea, and you need buy-in.
Right. And if you don't
Ugh.
get buy-in, that tells you the
It
viability of
means
the
it's not
idea
good if you don't
and it
have
saves you a
buy-in, like,
lot
and
of
especially
money.
someone who's, started if Chris doesn't think it's a good idea, maybe you should go back to the drawing board, you know?
Well, think of it this way if the idea is good. So, what we say is on Gusher, 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2, 1 equals done. Meaning, if you're not able to get one performance based equity
Mhm.
player, your deal's probably done. But if you get one, the rest follow, the deal gets developed.
Like
But believe it or not, there's all these
yeah.
sub markets and able to get information on anyone so much that the VIM, the vested interest market, the people that have the most to gain from the success or failure of a company, you can find them for
Yeah.
anything. So it's literally another example that I give is a company called Rosk. It's run by an emergency room doctor up in Rutgers,
Mhm.
a really top notch guy. And he had an idea for a software to make better outcomes for cardiac arrest patients in an
That's
emergency
specific.
room.
Yeah.
So when he first put it up on Gusher, we're sitting there going, he basically launches it into crickets and he's not able to get
Mhm.
anybody. But we start figuring out who his vested interest market is. All right. Now, it's a specialty software for cardiac arrest patients in a
Mhm.
hospital. This is a tougher
It
question,
is.
Seth, not a trick question. But who do you think joined
A
his
lot of
company?
patients who had cardiac events, and they're like, "Wait, I could have used this."
I would have said the same
But
thing. The first person that joined his company was his mom was like a
oh,
cardiac
so it runs in the
nurse. So
family,
he
yeah.
had spoken, right. The second person had programmed software for medical devices. He spoke the lingo. Third person had sold SaaS systems to
Oh, 'cause
HMOs.
oh,
So
so the
they
parallel is
all get it.
all health related people that kind of see a need and are like, this is needed.
Right. And so it validates the idea also because the people get the idea, they understand it, and so they're able to leapfrog as founders generational development. You're not there to create a minimum viable product, you're there to create a market
That's
viable
wild.
product. And that's the fundamental,
Well,
and you
you don't
don't
need
need
money,
money.
you need buy-in, exactly. So in the 24 companies over the years, what was the scariest thing? I mean, because you said like you were a stockbroker, and you're like, this is
Yeah.
boring. Forget about it. Let's move on. And then you're like, you started companies. I mean, it takes a bunch of gonads to say, all right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go build a company. What was the scariest thing about
Well,
doing that?
I think a little bit of it was obviously the bravado and
Hmm.
everything else, but I was brought up in an environment where, and don't take this the wrong way, it was really
Yeah.
shitty. So I was told regularly that my ideas and opinions didn't
Mm.
matter, and I didn't have the internal. How do I put it? I didn't go ahead and come down on myself. It did just a reverse to me. It focused me, and I was like,
You're like,
bullshit.
I'm gonna
You
prove you
know,
wrong.
screw
Yeah.
you. Right, exactly. And more important than that, I just, I believed in fundamentally my ability to get things done, even if I didn't know
Hmm.
something. And that's turned out to be true. So, the scary part is always for me, it's really a function of the
Hmm.
failure. It's like, okay, am I going to fail? That kind of scares me. But even after that, you go through it a couple times, you just get
You
better at it.
improve. Yeah.
It's like anything the first. I saw one of my youngest kids, 8 years old. He started wrestling in December of this year. And he was scared when he'd get out there. Now, 8 weeks later, he dominates. Well, that's it's like
You have to
anything.
start.
You just
And you
get
have to
better at
start
it.
and improve. We're gonna take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
Hey there, it's Jason with the Marketing Podcast Network. Real quick, I want to make sure you know that the world's leading B2B Marketing Expo is returning to the Los Angeles Convention Center on March 21st and 22nd. It's high time we got back together to learn, see the latest technologies and solutions, and network, right? Join thousands of marketing professionals just like you to learn from over 250 industry expert speakers, educational masterclasses, and over 300 exhibitors. And this year, your ticket also gets you into the Sales Innovation Expo and the Marketing and Advertising Expo. So it's like 3 conferences in one. It's March 21st and 22nd at the Los Angeles Convention Center. Go to b2bmarketingexpo.us to register. That's b2bmarketingexpo.us. The Marketing Podcast Network is a proud partner of the B2B Marketing Expo for 2023. We'll see you in LA.
Over 24 companies, each one I'm sure works better than the next. And you learn exactly like that.
Absolutely.
And I obviously you're a father of 3 kids. What is the best thing about being an entrepreneur?
I think it's honestly almost in a way the
Hmm.
freedom, but I also just love the creation, the ability to bring your ideas to life. That's what entrepreneurship is. Everybody thinks it's okay. Yeah, you make money. Money's a yardstick, no doubt about it. But seeing your idea come to life, for me, I mean, it's just the most
It's
thrilling
awesome.
thing. I mean, whether it's seeing your product in somebody's shopping cart or they're using your product and they're in some foreign country somewhere. I mean, it's literally it gets me off. I mean, it's
Yeah.
literally what drives me. I like that
It's
feeling.
a thrill. It's adrenaline. It's
Yes,
the dopamine.
there's something to
Yeah.
that. Something to that.
Awesome. And
Absolutely.
then here's a question that I love this question. What is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
This is what I say.
Yeah.
Okay, I have something called the deal
Okay.
rules. All right, and the deal rules are these fundamental things that I found patterns over decades of starting businesses and what's involved. You can have nothing else in this world but literally refusing to give up. All right. And I don't say that lightly. You will eventually get what you want. You will eventually get there so long as you iterate. If you don't just give up, I mean, you must be the most stubborn son of a bitch and never, ever, ever give up. I don't care what the world throws at you, and it'll throw a lot of ugly
Hmm.
stuff your way. It'll throw shit that you don't think is capable of overcoming. But fundamentally, if you just never give up, you don't need anything else.
Wow. So that's kind of bring that along with you. That's amazing. Here's another
I
question.
believe it.
What kind of legacy do you want to leave? Like, we all it's all a
I,
finite time on earth. What's the legacy you want to leave? Like, do you want to leave it for your kids and stuff like that?
Well, in terms of business, the one thing that I've concluded, because as you start getting gray hair, some of the things change in terms of what you're looking to do. And I'm looking at, you hear the word impact said a lot as to have the most impact. But what I'm looking to do with Gusher fundamentally is to untap as much human potential as humanly possible before I
Before
tap
you
out.
tap out.
Now, I fundamentally believe that talent is spread evenly out there. I don't care whether it's here or South Africa or Eastern Europe or China or wherever the hell it is, but opportunity is not. And so, Gusher and what I'm doing is really attempting to fix that. I think we have a methodology. And I remember my mom being stuck in Dayton, Ohio, working a low level secretarial job as a GS5 working at Wright Pat Air Force Base, stuck in a bad marriage with no ability to get out. Yet she always had these brilliant business ideas. And she finally did make it in her 50s, but she had no way to go ahead and act on them. And so, what I've created right now is a way to do that. It doesn't matter whether you're a single mom in New York City with 2 kids, or South Africa grandma, or whether you're in Eastern Europe or Portugal or you
Yeah.
name it. We've got all those
Oh,
scenarios.
that's wild. And so it's gusher.co.
Gusher.co.
.co.
Yeah.
This has been fantastic. Where is the best place for people to connect with you online?
Yeah, they can either reach out on LinkedIn or anywhere. I mean, I'm pretty easily found.
Yeah.
Gusher is the best, but they can find me on LinkedIn pretty easily.
Awesome, Chris. This has been great. Thank you for being on the show. And we'll see everyone next time. That was a great show. Hey, if you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please give us a review on the podcast directory of your choice, or on all of them. And these reviews really help others find the show. Also, if you're getting value from the show and want to buy me a coffee, go to the show notes and click on the link to help me stay awake while I bring you more great episodes to your ears. That's in the show notes, and I look forward to the next episode. Take care, guys. This podcast is one of the many great shows on the MPN Marketing Podcast Network. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Gordon Glenister hosts an outstanding podcast called the Influence Global Podcast. Gordon, tell these fine folks what they're going to get when they listen.
We interview some amazing people from all around the world, whether they be influencers, content creators, brands, influencer platforms, anybody involved in the influencer industry. There's some fantastic guests that make a fine listen for you. You can find them on marketingpodcasts.net, or you can also find them on my own website, which is www.gordonglenister.com.
Or, of course, wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.